This is a photo of a persimmon tree, loaded with fruit. It belongs to my good friend Dolph, and he invited me over the other day to pick some persimmons. It's December. This is the perfect time to start picking persimmons. I say start because the longer they stay on the tree, the better that they will taste. If you've ever had a bad experience with an astringent tasting persimmon, I can guarantee you that that was picked too soon. They have to ripen as long as possible to get that wonderful, rich, vanilla, sweet flavor without any astringency. While we're on the subject of persimmons, I want you to see these little baby persimmon trees that popped up underneath this giant. They're not from fallen persimmon fruit. These are root sprouts. This is the best way to grow a new persimmon tree. If you're not doing it from seed, this is your other best option. Doing it from a cutting is very difficult, and you're going to have much better success by gathering root sprouts. While we're looking at these root sprouts, it's also great for me to see that some of the larger root sprouts are actually bearing fruit this year. This is the first time. And it gives me great hope because I have some young persimmon trees that are just reaching the same size. Let's compare the bark on my largest root sprout to the bark that we see here on the one at Dolph's place that has fruit right now. It seems that mine is probably 1 year behind, but it's reaching a similar stage of development, so I'm very hopeful that I'm going to have persimmons next year. This first one that I'm showing you is a root sprout that I took 5 years ago, but let's contrast that with one that I grew from seed that's only just finishing its second year, and it's not far behind. It looks like it's a good contender to have persimmons not next year, but the year after. It's already developing some nice bark. Now I want to show you a couple of persimmon trees that I gathered from underneath Dolph's tree last year. These are also root sprouts. The first one is quite healthy and really developing nicely, and it also looks like, if not next year, the year after, it will be growing fruit as well. But now let's look at this other one nearby that was gathered on the same day. It's not as well developed because it was facing a challenge. Sometimes when you are gathering root sprouts, you're not going to get much roots with them. And this one only had one strand of roots like a hair, even though the sprout itself was actually quite large at the time. It hasn't grown much in that last year. It wasn't much smaller than it is now, but it's doing very well. Look at the beautiful buds on top, waiting for next spring to grow some more. The key with one that doesn't have a lot of roots, in fact, this is true for any from a root sprout, it requires a lot of care, especially for the first couple of months. It must never get dry because it's going to be challenged with such a small root system, and if it ever runs dry, it will die. But once it gets established and makes more roots, it'll be fine. Incidentally, during my bike ride home, I happened to notice this incredible autumn olive growing beside the road, and the fruit on it is the largest I've ever seen. So I gathered a bunch, I ate them, and then I saved the seeds. And even the seeds are larger than any that I've seen before. And so I'm going to plant these in a pot and leave it in my workshop over the winter so that they can slowly get established, and then I'm going to plant them in the spring outside. And hopefully soon I'll have really big autumn olives growing here as well.